Hey, welcome to Tap That AZ. I'm your host, Eric Walters, and in this episode, I'm joined by AZ Beer Jedi. We sit down with brothers Jason and Josh Duren from Cider Corps in downtown Mesa. We talk about giving back to the veterans who fought for this country and the challenges of selling cider in a craft beer world. Let's tap into Cider Corps. I am in historic Mesa at Cider Corps, hanging out with the dudes from Cider Corps. I've got AZ Beer Jedi here. Pretty awesome. So,
absolutely.
You guys want to introduce yourselves? We'll start with you.
My name is Jason, and I'm one of the co-founders of Cider Corps.
I'm Josh, the other co-founder.
And we are Cider Corps.
And we are Cider Corps.
And I'm Stefan, otherwise known as AZ Beer Jedi, and I'm just here hanging out.
He came here for the free cider is really what it was.
Yeah. Sampling and promoting.
You saw him stumbling down the sidewalk. And like,
he'll leave as soon as the sample cups are gone.
Yeah, exactly.
I see a few barrels, so we're going to be okay.
Yeah, all right.
We've been excited to do this.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah. So why did you guys get into cider?
In 2012, Jason was deployed with the Marine Corps in Afghanistan. And while he was there, he hit 2 IEDs and suffered 2 traumatic brain injuries. So when he returned, I was kind of going through a lot of brain doctor appointments, a lot of trying to get everything sorted out, going through the medical retirement process. And during that time, I owned a brand development company. And so I could rearrange my schedule to kind of do whatever. And he had mentioned that one of his doctors had told him, hey, you need to find like some sort of a therapeutic hobby, something to kind of keep you focused during the day, keep your interest going, and it'll help with a lot of the other processes, you know. And while he was gone, I had done a little bit of research on what to do as like a support person, a family member being a brother. And not really knowing anybody that's been in the military or been in war, I wanted to make sure that I kind of knew like what is my role, because I don't have any idea of how things go down. And one of the things was finding a hobby to encourage the person alongside. So we had kind of looked at brewing beer because we had always talked about that. And we were at his house out in Gilbert and kind of felt like every other garage was brewing beer. We can drink all of their beer and enjoy it. How could we kind of create something, or at least experiment with something that hadn't been around?
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of it. And then
We stopped in Ireland on the way back from Afghanistan. That was kind of my first experience with cider outside of the 2 big brands,
the mainstreams.
The mainstreams. And I was impressed. I had a flight of beer and cider there, and they serve it like it's just a normal. It wasn't like here. It's like, can I get a cider? And they're like, well, yeah, we have, but there it's like it's kind of a mainstream thing. Like everybody drinks it like it's normal, like a beer or anything else. And so that was kind of my first experience, and it wasn't like I drank it and was like, oh my God, I'm going to go home and I'm going to make this. Like, this is what I want to do with my life,
Yeah.
And it was just kind of, I had it was good. And then Josh had some in Canada. It was a little bit different than what was here. And so, like he was saying, we were talking about making beer, and, everybody was doing it kind of at that time, it seemed like, all of our friends. And so we thought we'd try to see if we could make something different here, and dive down into the cider making thing. So I think it was a little bit after I got back. It was his birthday, so I bought him a cider making kit from the homebrew store.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we made
Not
it,
nice.
And it was it was horrid. It was pretty terrible. I think we were like, oh, cool, we made alcohol, and then we just flushed it all. It was just super sugary. It was really harsh alcohol. I mean, you could tell that most of it was just it wasn't necessarily the apples being fermented. It was, at that time we didn't know, but looking back on it, you know, it was just fermented sugar.
Yeah.
This is a bunch of sugar, added sugar. Because, you know,
'cause
those
what
kids are
comes-
like, you pour this in there, you add some water, you add like bags of sugar, and you go, right? So it's like apple extract with a bunch of sugar, you know. You know, my wife kind of saw that I was super interested in it, and at that time wasn't really interested in anything. So she ordered me a book on cider making, and you know, at the time I was going through speech therapy, I was having troubles reading, and I went through this book. I read it and started doing a lot of research online, and we continued to make batches. It was probably a solid year though before we made anything that we're like, we could drink this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it took a long time.
It's kind of why we got in. That's why we went down the cider route. Was there was no existing like recipes, like in beer making. There was no like do this and do this, you know. And so for us, it was kind of like that's the best hobby to have, is when you're just walking down a path trying to figure out what are we doing. And like the next thought was, okay, that's a good start. Now let's go, you know. He knew somebody who had a family farm in Duncan, and we picked up a ton of just leftover apples from them. He built a press, and so it was like just constantly like, okay, that was terrible. What is this? Okay, that was a little bit better, but it was still terrible, and it was different, and just kept rolling. And so the experimentation of it is what really made it like the most interesting, because we didn't know where we were going, and a business was not the end goal.
I had, since I was wounded, I had a 100% GI Bill. So I was like, well, I can get paid to go to school. And so what am I going to do? I've always had a garden in my backyard, pretty good sized garden. And I'd heard about horticulture therapy. And so I knew if that's a real thing, and I love being in the garden, it was therapeutic for me, that maybe that would be my future, you know. Went to school for sustainable horticulture, learning more and more about plants. And the more I learned about plants, the more I understood what was happening with the ciders. And the more we got into the sciences, then the more I could kind of change the way that we were doing it, and my understanding of, I mean, I did biochemistry of yeast, so I really understood what was happening from fermentation aspect. And so that really helped us refine, like between years 2 and 3, like we changed dramatically, you know. It wasn't just, and still at that time, it wasn't like, this is what we're going to do. Like, if we're going to open up a cidery, and, you know, it was more just, it was getting more exciting, getting deeper into building flavor profiles and understanding really what was happening from the science of it, you know.
Right. Yeah. And that's really interesting too, because like you understood the process behind it. It's not just follow these steps. Okay, now what? Okay, maybe I'll switch this ingredient. Like you understood like the science.
It started to come far beyond like this. Okay, we know what yeasts we like and the flavor profiles that they put off, and it makes it taste good, so let's just keep doing that. But it took it from there and just kept evolving it into knowing basically the science behind the like entire process. Like, this is exactly why this is doing this. This is how we should be treating this and this, you know. And he just took it and started creating procedures of like, this is how we are going to get the best possible fermentation, and then moving from there, you know.
Yeah.
But when was the moment where it's just like, you know what, this is damn good. Like, we got to do something else that's as good but different. Like, when was that moment?
For me is when I became neighbors with friends with all my neighbors. They started coming over, and the garage doors open, you know, because
They knew what to expect.
we came from Kansas, where you know all your neighbors. They're all your friends. You cook out, you do all this stuff. And been in Arizona since 2004, and lived in that same house for the last 4 years, and only knew one of my neighbors. Well, now I know all of them, you know, because when you're out in the garage, people come by and they ask questions, and before you know it, like, you're having a cider with them, and, you know, you become friends really quick.
Yeah.
And, you know, that kind of led to people being like, you need to do something. You need to be able to, like, sell this to people. People need to try this. And
I don't know, because you're so wrapped up in the hobby of it and the fun of it that you kind of have all these different moments. But I think the biggest aha moment for me was when we had a friend who was like, hey, I know somebody at Fox Restaurant Group. Would you guys be interested in putting your cider before them, you know? And like Jason was saying, like, we didn't have a business. It was a hobby. But there was some, like as things go and you start to like the product, friends and neighbors are starting to like it. There's a part of it where a little bit of ego maybe is you want to hear from somebody that you don't know and who is legit in the profession and can say feedback.
Yeah.
And so I think we did about 10 different flavors and we bottled them up and took them and did this meeting with, it ended up being a beverage director at Fox Restaurant Group. And we sat down and he started tasting them, and it's like not a lot of feedback, just kind of asking a lot of questions. And we hadn't been in that environment before, so we didn't really know what was going on. And
A little intimidating.
Oh,
a little
very
intimidating. Yeah, a little intimidating, especially because we're at one of the restaurants, just sitting on the patio. So people are like eating all around us,
And he's looking around like doesn't have time for this, And,
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah, it's like these guys, like cider. Nobody cares about cider,
And he gets almost all the way through, and it was actually about this time, I think, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And we had just messed around with pumpkin pie cider for the first time. And he took a drink and he was just like, "How did you do this?" And there was a few expletives in there, like what? And we kind of were like, "Oh, no, all right, so
See you later."
We'll take off. It's not good." And he was like, "No, I'm saying like, I'm not even sure how to describe it because I've been all over the world and had ciders." And he's like, "Honestly, not a huge fan of cider." He's like, "And I know that all this is apple juice, and so you have to call it cider, but you guys found something. Where are you making it?" And it was like, "Oh, we just make it in the garage as a hobby." And the look on his face and kind of the response of like, as soon as you can figure out how to do that legally, I would love to get it. And can I have 10 of those pumpkin pie bottles to take to my Thanksgiving event?
Wow.
And so leaving there, it's kind of an aha, but it's also like what
just happened?
What just happened? I guess we need to figure out what it means to start a business. Here we are at a picnic table, and this is the goal, is that people are able to sit around and drink things and say, "I've never tasted anything like that before." And maybe there's people that don't like this one or that one, but they can appreciate the science and the craft and the art behind it. And for us, that was like, that soon became like the pinnacle of what a business could be, is just building community in a new way.
Anybody that has chatted with me or seen what I do, I'm just a massive, massive enthusiast to the idea that Arizona's got great stuff. We don't need to look anywhere else. Let's look here and enjoy it. I'm drinking 6 of your ciders right now, and I can tell you I've never tasted anything like these. This is the next level, and this is why I think this is such a huge thing, and that's why when I seen, it was Mouth by Southwest that did an article on you guys, and I'm bored at work going through my little feed, and I seen that, and that was my holy crap, aha, like finally somebody, let's get behind this and make sure that everyone knows, because it's not unless somebody introduces you to it do you even know that it's possible. And I think you guys just kicked down the door to what is like going to be like a massive thing. So like I'm so excited about it.
We've been kind of sipping through them a little bit here. You want to run us through what we're doing?
Yeah, so we have 6 different ciders. The first one is kind of our take on a Moscow Mule inspired cider. We call it Camel Flage.
I love that name too.
It's got 30 pounds of ginger, cara orange, and some lime zest. The next one I think is a cold brew infuse. We did a collaboration with Provision Coffee. Took some of their cold brew and pushed it back in. To us, it seemed like the cider really kind of opened up those notes, so you can really taste some of that chocolate and floral and citrusy notes. It was really cool, and it seems to be kind of what cider does. Is whatever you put into it, it really kind of shows it.
Amps it up.
The next one is that's the pumpkin pie.
The pumpkin pie. Yeah, that one's really interesting.
Yeah, so we kind of collaborated with Worth Takeaway across the way, and took in 50 pumpkins, baked them, and then took the skins off, steeped them in apple juice for a couple hours with ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice.
Totally get that cinnamon.
All the
Yeah.
pumpkin pie seasonings.
Yep, and
And I'm a nut for anything cinnamon. Like if cinnamon's a component, I'm like, oh,
It's got
the next
cinnamon. I'm
one
good. Yeah.
was our prickly pear hopped. So prickly pears, and then we add Mosaic, Centennial, and Cascade to dry hop it just very lightly to add a little bit to the earthiness.
Is that the Lady in Pink?
Lady
Is
in
it-
Pink Liberty.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question about that one, and I need you to verify or correct it.
Raw.
To your knowledge, was there any other prickly pear ciders before you did it?
To our knowledge, no.
Now that you've done it, isn't there?
We're
not-
seeing it in other
You're
states.
seeing it in other states
Really?
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
That
You're
one
welcome.
was like kind of like the whole purpose behind that was back to the Arizona thing.
Something unique.
It's like, what kind of a cider can we make that says this is Arizona cider? And prickly pears seem to be a really good fit. And now, yeah, like you said, see it in different states where it's like, prickly pear.
Interesting.
Didn't know that it grew there. Then it's all eventually like coming back to here.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we made it, it was honestly probably once we started flavoring the ciders, it was probably
That and mango
First.
habanero.
yeah, it was like
Oh,
the
nice.
first one or two flavors that we did. So that's been around for almost 4 years. The brilliance of the way it looked once we started to infuse it, it was like, all right, I
That's-
think we
That's amazing.
that we got to stick with this one. This one's got to be a staple for a while.
Yeah, so then it's the Kettle Sour IPA malted cider.
The dead end.
So we
It's called the dead end.
The dead end.
The dead end, is that this one here?
It
This
is.
Okay.
So that one was Kettle Sour IPA, and then boiled that off and blended it with half and half with the beer wort and apple juice, co-fermented them together, and then we caramelized 40 gallons of apple juice down to about 20 gallons and pushed it back in for the unfermentable sugars to give it a little bit of that because it was really, really dry. And then dry hopped it with 30 pounds of, I think maybe over 30 pounds of hops.
If you've had 12 West beers,
Yeah,
you know Noel likes to go all
I
in.
like their beers.
I'm a huge fan of smells too. Like I'll sit there and smell a beer for like an hour before I even drink it. And the nose on this is awesome. It's got almost like a northeastern style IPA kind of.
Almost like a fruity
Yeah.
element to it.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I've never had anything like this. Like, so it was just cool. So I'm one of those people. Like,
That's
what?
the-
Like, what?
Yeah, like if nobody explained it to you, because that happened, like it got so big. We thought, we'll cruise around and we'll explain to people what it is, but it got so crazy, and then people are drinking like, I don't know what to think. Like, wait, is this supposed to be a cider? Is it a beer? Is it a, sour? Not really sure.
I'm so
what to think of
confused.
it. Yeah.
That's good though, because what that's doing is it's causing people to rewire their perception, because when you hear cider and then you sip and you're not getting cider, you're challenging that boundary of, okay, well, the preconceived idea, I've got to toss that because I like this.
Sure. A lot of people are already kind of like, we don't like ciders because they're really tart or they're really sugary, and
Going in.
that was one of the things from the get-go that we wanted to change. Like we don't add sugar pre or post fermentation, only the flavorings, like we post flavor. What happens then is when you ferment it out, it becomes really tart. 90% of the acid in an apple is malic acid. So if you take that sugar away, you're left with a lot of acid. So a lot of places have to add sugar back in or a lot of flavoring to kind of balance that out. So, we've adopted some kind of wine techniques, some brewing techniques. And so we start our fermentation with, we do 10% ferment with wild yeast strain. And then we overpitch with beer yeast. So these were done with an English ale and a Burton ale.
How did you know to do that, if I may ask? Because I know that you said you had reached out to try to figure out, what kind of process or path to take with doing ciders? Like, where was the inspiration to do something different?
I'd heard, talked with a winemaker from Napa, and he was kind of playing around with it. And then everybody knows Carvin Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was using it in some of his meads, and so I was like, I'm gonna give this a shot, and it added so much mouth feel to the ciders, because cider can be very one-dimensional. We would overpitch with the beer yeast; it would outcompete that, and that's where you get your main alcoholic fermentation from. And then we co-inoculate with a malolactic bacteria. Malolactic bacteria in the wine industry, you wouldn't drink wine if it hadn't gone through MLF. And so we knew that we didn't want to add sugar back to it. We didn't want to add so much stuff that it turned into a Kool-Aid. No. So how do we cut that tartness? Malolactic bacteria. It consumes malolactic acid by like about 45%, converts to lactic acid, so you get a nice smoothness to it with a little bit of maybe tartness in there, but not near as aggressive or abrasive as it is without. So really, I think kind of what sets our ciders apart from most, and I don't know anybody else in the cider industry that's using malolactic bacteria right now. So we, at the end, we make a tannin, we add a little bit of tannins, and then at the end, we don't have to make any adjustments. Our final product is done, it's balanced. We can just add in prickly pear or ginger caracara, orange and lime, and that's it. We actually stop fermentation before it's complete. So there's very little, there's less sugar in most of these than most beers. But
really?
It's just that we don't have that hop and grain order to kind of bitter it back out.
Yeah.
That was our way of kind of staying true to the apple and not just getting an alcohol from it that we can make a cocktail. That it would still, all of them would still have a apple-ness to it, so we could stay true to what we thought was true to the apple and what cider should be.
I think for a lot of people who are in anything, when you put craft in front of it, they want to see the boundaries pushed.
Absolutely.
Or even jumped.
Well, it's been interesting. We've been putting out like how we're doing it, these are the things we're using, and we get a lot of like, you shouldn't do that. Like people are going to, well, we want them to, we want it to be pioneered further. We want people to say like, hey, you guys need to add this. Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's a community, and it only gets better by like sharing your process. Yeah. And your ideas and brainstorming more.
And so this is going to be the tap room here. Yeah. So what, love the huge flag right there too. Yeah, that's awesome. We've got some barrels here. So this place is huge. What, 4,500 square feet?
Yeah.
Yep. And it's an old building too, right?
Yeah, it's very old.
Yeah,
it's historic.
It's historic.
It's truly historic.
Yeah. First aerial pictures I was able to find was like 1917, I think. So this building has been here. When we first came in, it was a lot different. You could stand in one corner and see across the entire building. There was just one little room up front. So it's been through a complete renovation, that's for sure.
Some of the walls were adobe.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they had a guy come in and chip out each block. It's like that big, just solid adobe. We tried to leave a lot of the history here, the floors, Yeah, couldn't have adobe in here with any sort of liquids being made.
Yeah, interesting. Wow, that's huge. Is this a standalone building? I only came in from that.
It is.
Side. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we're putting in the bar right now, so that's going in. Got some beautiful hand torched tables, right?
Yeah.
One things you learn really quick with opening something like this, unless you have the money just to pay people to do it, is you become a handyman.
So obviously the core part of it, like the cider core, like military, there's a lot of emphasis on military, and you guys have, we're looking at these tiles here, right? That's a big piece of the whole picture, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we can both probably touch on this. So kind of coming back to the valley wounded and trying to figure out like, what do I need to do? Like, didn't feel like I was getting what I needed, or my wife didn't feel like I was getting what I needed. So, I was kind of going out, and my military appointed lawyer was like, you are your own advocate. Nobody cares about you in a positive way.
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
You know, like, you have to go seek help. You know, we've started to realize, I mean, there's a huge problem in the veteran community. There's over 22 veterans that commit suicide every single day. And so, a part of that is just not wanting to go and be medicated. Like, there needs to be a true, like, something needs to happen. And so we wanted to be able to make an impact that way, trying to kind of connect the dots. And that's part of the reason why we wanted such a big space. We're going to do what we call honor nights, where we can have maybe nonprofits come in and talk about what they're doing, and then that'd be like maybe a fundraiser where we can help them out. We don't always want to talk about our problems, you know, until, like, because you go to a doctor and it's like, you are broken and you're there to be fixed, you know. We're not cars, you know, like, we want somebody so sometimes having a coordinator or a nonprofit that is kind of like, can help you navigate that and feel like a person is super beneficial.
Well, someone to get behind you, in the sense that, just like you were encouraged and advised that you need to direct focus somewhere. And it's not a cool thing. It's not easy, but especially like for guys, especially military, you know, there's a lot of things that go unsaid. And it's tragic. But you know, when I heard that was going to be a focus for you guys, that touched me, because my dad is a veteran of Vietnam. He's had some struggles.
Yeah.
But he's done amazing, because he's had a great support group with love and family, and somehow, some way, without ever going on to medication or anything like that, you would never have known. But I know that's an unspoken trial that too many people face.
The support system that you just described, that's part of why we're called Cider Corps. Is a part of it is a tip of the cap to Jason was in the Marine Corps, but the word corps means like a group of people focused on helping or serving a certain thing. They're passionate about a common focus. And so for us, we felt like, because part of the ownership has experienced that, it allows for like you to actually reach out into that group of people and have a voice. And so as you see, I think it was in 2013, there was a thing released by the Arizona Republic that 86% of all homeless people that you saw in the valley had served this country.
Right.
And so for us early on, that was, okay, how can we take what we're doing and use our platform, because we have a completely different audience, you know, of craft drinkers. How can we take our platform and build a core who is like committed to saying, like, this has to stop. These people are fighting so that we can have bars, so that we can have these different jobs, and they're coming back, and now they're standing asking for help because they don't have support systems. And so how could we, like Jason was saying, we got a bigger space. It costs us a little bit more to have a bigger space, but the space is really like the heart of who we are, because this is where that core support system for all these people that don't have that support system, this is where we want to build it. And this is where we want to give a platform to the nonprofits that they know what they're doing, but they don't have a platform. And if you don't have a platform, you're not going to get donors. So how can we pack this place out with 300 people on these honor nights, help build this core that says, like, I appreciate what you did. I want to be a part of making sure that, like, these organizations that are helping support you are supporting you. And like, even being able to bring in sometimes people like your dad, and be able to bring them in on those nights and just let a group of people, let them be honored by a group of people. Let them know that they're appreciated for what they did. And then, so like kind of our little slogan is drink great cider, honor great sacrifice. So we want people to be in here like loving and drinking these different things and experiencing that and celebrating these guys and women who have put it all out there, you know?
That kind of bled into this tile campaign that we were doing, and is that we wanted people to like they could get a tile, have their name engraved on it. And it was kind of their way of saying, like, we support this, we're behind this, we're
a part of
we
the
want
core.
to see the change.
Yeah.
We want to be a part of the core.
You were saying
Yep.
too, even just having this door open, having this huge flag, you've attracted some people coming in, right?
Absolutely.
Military veterans just kind of walking around the neighborhood.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks, just kind of working in the tap room, we've had the garage door open, and multiple people every day stop by and share their stories, and it's really exciting to see, because they're not necessarily always people that you would think are going to come in and drink ciders, but they're people that are going to come in and share their stories for real, and they're worth being heard.
So, so coming up, this is going to be this Saturday, November 11th. Is that-
November 11th.
Yeah, is going to be that's the grand opening.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there's the East Valley Veterans Day Parade is in downtown Mesa, and actually ends here on Robson, the street that we're on, just on the other side of Maine. But yeah, we wanted to take advantage of the opportunity, I guess, to make sure like that our kind of launch into this was that was the story, was the brand, was that people knew why we're here and why we exist, and no better day to do that than Veterans Day. We're going to open up before the parade and be serving some coffee to all the old veteran guys. And,
like the coffee cider or actual coffee.
Actual coffee. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, take this over to the parade. If you make it back, that'd be great. And then we'll be doing like some just hot mulled cider, just to get people like something to know, like, hey, we are here for our cider, but we're also here for the community. And so give people something that's approachable if they're not into alcohol or maybe shouldn't be drinking alcohol, or our children. And and then just kind of, as soon as the parade's over, be asking people to come back, and we'll be honoring and celebrating veterans all day, and then just pouring all the different ciders, different food for lunch, different food for dinner. It's kind of been a back and forth thing of trying to figure out what's the best to do, because we are, like Jason mentioned earlier, we're hustling to get the product out, but we also really want to start building this place, the heart,
It's just us.
It's just the two of us. We don't have any hired cronies helping us out. It's just we're doing like it as fast as we can, but with four hands, we're doing what we can. And so going forward, we'll probably let people know on that day, on Veterans Day, like, hey, going forward, we'll be open these days every week. You can come hang out, fill up growlers, have fun. But then we'll do a grand opening
to be announced.
where this place is open every day for people to be in and out, having a good time. Yeah, we when we first knew that we were getting into a spot, we were like, we need somewhere to get some Purple Heart wood. So, but yeah, like that being the center point of where us meets the customer, and that being kind of the crux of the business, really. Like this Purple Heart is why this whole thing started. And so we thought we couldn't pass up on the opportunity to get it at whatever cost.
Well, what is it like? So describe what the Purple Heart wood is. Like,
Yeah, so it's actually it's purple. So it's it's from the sapwood, or also known as the heartwood of a tree. So in the center of a tree, if you were to cut it in half, you know how there's a dark area, and the inside of this tree, when you cut it, the sap almost bleeds out, and it is a brilliant purple. Yeah. So once they cut it and process, so this is not stained or dyed. This is the actual color with a little bit of mineral oil on it.
Yeah, we currently have our ciders in around like 40 different places around the valley.
Already.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that's everywhere from the guys out of Old Ellsworth and Queen Creek,
Yeah.
all the way over to
West side.
Ground Control and State 48 out on the west side. And then have made some trips up to Prescott, the Park Plaza guys.
You are in
and
Tucson.
all the way to Tucson.
That's
So
what I was telling you. I was showing my cousin that you go to Tap and Bottle.
yeah,
You got it.
taking a little bit of the Sun Devil country down
It
there.
happened
and-
really quick.
Yeah.
Everything kind of happened really fast. Yeah. It was,
Yeah, and that's back to there's only 2 of us, you know?
Yeah.
So driving, sales, delivering, all these different places in the state, in the city. And I guess we want to thank the community as well. We've been really appreciative of the support that we've gotten from the different breweries and little
Stefan.
tap and bottle shops. Stefan over here has been
He's a huge advocate for you guys.
an
Yeah.
advocate, and
You guys rock. Just keep doing it.
yeah, we hope it just continues to grow and people get to come enjoy
Enjoy.
the good
Exactly.
the good stuff and be along in the journey. That's kind of why we went ahead and got the picnic tables and kept it pretty basic, was allow people to kind of join our core and grow with it, and
Yeah.
help them see that it's not about how cool the tables are, how cool the tap room is, but it's about the cider and honoring veterans. So
hashtag friendship.
on Saturday and going forward, these tiles will always be available to people. Like, this will be on the wall behind the bar, so there's a lot of space for these tiles.
You gotta start adding those in.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so a lot of the money that we raise with this, there's different levels at which you can. It's kind of like a membership program, and like Jason was talking about earlier, this is kind of like allowing people to say we're a part of this core, this group of people that are committed to these honor nights and honoring people, and so those will be available until the wall is full, and we'll use part of the money from that to really make some impact in the community. So we have a higher level that you can get in on this tile,
Okay.
and what that'll entail is our barrel and bottle program. So we're currently fermenting in most of these barrels, and we'll be aging in some barrels too, some other stuff. And if you're a part of that program, you'll get special releases that won't go to the public. So
Sold.
So you guys are at 31 South Robson Drive in Mesa. Website is cidercorpaz.com.
Yes, sir.
You guys are active on Facebook and Instagram,
yep,
right? That's
Yep.
Angela back here
that's Angela.
from
She
Tin Can Marketing.
yep,
Angela, you
yeah,
wanna say
there
hi?
she is.
And AZ Beer Jedi has been doing some good articles, great articles for AZ Food and Beer too. So, good friend, good contributor. So, love this community. You guys keep it up. This is awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show and for your support of the craft beer scene here in Arizona. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app, as well as on our YouTube channel to get notifications right away when we release new material. Also, check out the website where everything's going to be posted for each episode at tapthataz.com. In the meantime, always remember, stay awesome.